Oh, just going to make a few comments here. 17th of June, of course, 2021. Now, I've only got a few minutes really that I want to wrap this up with for the time being. The big report on the UFOs, or what the intelligence agencies know about the UFOs, is due on or about the 25th of June, US time. So that means if they did a bureaucratic thing and issued it at midday on that day, the next day, the 26th, we will have that report in Australia. And that begins the process of analysis, shall we say. People's opinions will be coming to the fore on the subject. Now, I saw, and I haven't seen all of it by the way, a huge program of 4 people, like on a Skype type situation, 4 screens. Absolute experts in their field. In other words, they're talking about body language, and these are people who work for the police agencies or CIA or FBI, whatever it might be, to judge whether people are telling the truth or whether they're lying, and how they're looking down, or what they do with their eyebrows, or the tone of their voice, and so on. And they analysed a whole series of interviews with presidents, or ex-presidents, actually, because you had Donald Trump, you had Barack Obama, and there was Bill Clinton, for example. And they weren't looking at anything from a political standpoint. It was just, what are these people saying, and how much are they prepared to say, and so forth. And some of the intelligence agencies' bosses, and one of them is the Director of National Intelligence, and that means that the CIA and the NSA and these other agencies we all hear about all the time report to this guy. Now, he gave the worst long-winded answers, unbelievably, they call it convoluted, just everywhere you could imagine coming from, to try and not answer a question. So straight away you'd be saying, well, what do you expect? Well, from the bureaucrats and from the intelligence agencies, not much. Now, there's some good news and there's some bad news. That's part of the bad news. The bad news is that they'll leave the question open, even if something is startlingly obvious to them. And the best example I could give is, forget about, I've discussed for years about history, and that sort of thing. They're not going to talk about that. Let's just say that we're talking about these declassified videos of objects around US warships flying in the area, and pilots going up to meet those objects, as it were, to investigate them, find out what is going on. Highly trained people. These are people you just can't say don't know what they're talking about, because they do. That is one thing. And when they describe things like, oh, these craft were about the same size as an F-18, well, that's an interesting thing. So, okay. And our friend John Edwards says, might be drones. Other people say, might be a Russian drone, might be a Chinese drone. You've got to say, hang on a minute. As a number of people have said, and even those that have sworn to secrecy, by the way, in general, in other words, they're not going to reveal anything that's not clear, that's not obvious. Yeah, these craft were, and they call them craft, and they call them vehicles. They did things that no weapons even, or secret aircraft, or secret military aircraft, or anything in this world can do. I'll give you some quick examples, and whoever hears this or whatever may like to comment on it in a polite and civil manner, that's fine. One of these things stand out to me, if I may say. One of the craft was seen on and measured by the most sophisticated radar in the world on these US aircraft carrier type. The vehicles that were measured, well, they saw, and they're able to see a long way further than the regular radar you get at your airport and so on. Even though it does the job, these things are better still. So they saw an object appearing to come from space. That's what they said. It came out of space, it seemed to be, came from such an altitude that it went to 80,000 feet, which is a long way up anyway. It sat at 80,000 feet, then it dropped to 50 feet above the water, where it remained stationary again. Now, I was wondering about this, and I was asking if anyone could do some calculations, and I did attempt to track this down. The answers weren't available on Google, of all things. But there were other pilots who were being interviewed on the subject who said, one of them, a woman who's now a commercial jet pilot, and so she's not sworn to secrecy about anything, she said, oh, it disappeared off the screen. She said, oh, it was travelling at 46,000 miles an hour. And the one object coming from 80,000 feet to 50 feet was travelling at 40,000 miles an hour. Now you think about that for a while, and I got some people, as I said, I got friends like John Edwards in particular, who will probably never even hear me say these things. Won't even listen, probably. But you might surprise me, because if he does listen, he does view this, and I request that he answers it. If I get no answer, well, he probably never saw it. But those who might obviously view it and then choose to answer or choose to comment, we're very welcome to do so. We have no objects, craft, vehicles, call them what you like, that can do 40,000, even 46,000 miles an hour without falling to pieces, smashing. If there's any occupants, they can't. We know that one of the experts talking about this said, well, some of these speeds are involving 60 and even 90 Gs, as they put it, which is, you could imagine how many thousands of miles an hour that is, that a human being would be killed, couldn't possibly fly in a craft, no matter how well designed it is, and survive that. All right, a person might say, all right, okay, well, I concede, doesn't seem to be manned. All right, okay, the vehicle or the craft, yes, let's just say it exists. Oh, okay. Still thinking it might be a Chinese drone, or it might be a Russian drone. Okay, you still think for a while about that and say 46,000 miles an hour. Now, if you had missiles that did 46,000 miles an hour, I'm not very good on mathematics, but it'd take a matter of minutes, wouldn't it, to get from the US to China, if you had it, or vice versa, if you had a missile, multi-warhead nuclear missile that did 46,000 miles an hour, you wouldn't have a hope of survival. You wouldn't have a hope of recognizing anything, acting on that, getting permission to fire back and taking action. It's too late. if missiles of that nature occurred, they came from, as I said, China or Russia, the war, as it were, would be over in about an hour. You know, because of, okay, you've hit 100 different sites. I'm speaking to you from inside a mountain in Colorado, and I'm telling you that we're putting the white flag up, we're over and done, the matter is closed. So, they're not man-made vehicles or craft. And that is the main thing that I wanted to get across to people. Now, about the report, I've described some of the bad news. The good news in the report is coming, and you might think, how do you know? Well, I do, in a sense. After studying the subject for many years, it seems to me that unlike other reports such as the Blue Book and unlike many of the other so-called reports that they put out, there will be no attempt to lie and cover up anything. They'll just say, well, we don't know what it was. Yes, the objects or the vehicles, craft, whatever, are real. They perform in ways that shouldn't be possible in our current understanding of physics and how things operate, in other words, and how they possibly can operate. We don't know what they are. You won't get them saying, I believe, and I'm pretty sure of myself on this, they won't say, oh, these appear to be alien craft. They will say, we don't know what they are, they're real, which is a great advance, which is the good news compared to all the other reports over many decades, from the 50s and 60s onwards, where they use all kinds of excuses, and I've said this in the past, like stupid stuff like the planet Venus, or maybe you saw an aircraft, or maybe you saw swamp gas. None of that will happen. That's the great news out of it. It'll be out. It'll be, in my opinion though, and this is something that hasn't been said that much publicly, it'll be the beginning of further discussion and revelation from people who will not be laughed at anymore, and people who are experts. I'm talking about people, astrophysicists or others, astronomers or others, who have that knowledge and ability on these things. And if you ask them a straightforward question, and the media doesn't seem to do this yet, okay, you've acknowledged that the craft or the vehicle, call it what you will, is a solid, real vehicle of a certain size, like the F-18 size. How can it move at 46,000 miles an hour and reappear somewhere else and be at a standing start to a standing stop and do 46,000 miles an hour in between those two locations? The answer then would be, well, we don't have anything on this planet that can do that. So, oh, where do you leap from there? If it's not from this planet, Johnny, as I said, John Edwards or others, sorry guys, it's alien. Now, you can't just accuse me of saying something's alien just because I want it to be, or, oh, you would say that, or you're interested in this and you're very, very, very much into that sort of thing. That's not the point. The point is something, a craft, something real, a vehicle or a weapon or anything cannot do 46,000 miles an hour in between starting point and stopping instantly, and then or going under the water and coming out again, travelling. As I said, they worked it out on the radar, 100 miles an hour underwater and just straight out again. Can't be done. The other point I'd make in closing on this one is we look back in history, which I'm not sure whether they will, to the 1980s, where a Japan Airlines cargo plane had three crew, pilot and co-pilot and navigator, all saw a craft, all reported. It's on the black box recorder. It's written. It's been recorded between their discussion between them and air control, air traffic control. All the questions. Oh, what if you got something else up here? Is there something military or something else? Something travelling at 600 miles an hour is right beside me. Then it goes under. Then it goes in front of me and sitting at 600 miles an hour directly in front of me. I don't crash into it, but it's right in front of me. And it's around 300 feet in diameter. That is no drone, guys. Now, the person who made that report had been passed away long ago, I'd say by now, because he was a Japanese Zero pilot in World War II. So he knows his business. He started as a young guy. I'm sure he was in his 20s. The point is, you do not see something 300 feet in diameter sitting in front of your windscreen, taking up the full width of your windscreen, that's how big it is, saying it was the size of an aircraft carrier. So you don't have a vehicle flying at 600 miles an hour for up to 40 minutes around and above and beside you, the size of an aircraft carrier that is a Russian or Chinese drone. It just doesn't happen. I'm only asking that everybody concerned who hears what I'm telling them acknowledges that we're dealing with something from out of this world. I do not care what anyone says, or they laugh, or you jump into conclusions. Let's wait for the report. And I still think, as I said to you, the bad news is that they probably won't admit what they are, but they leave a question open. Well, I've already said this. Could be alien. We're not saying it's alien, but it could be alien. We're not saying it's a drone from China or from Russia. Oh, but it could be. That's not the truth, by the way, in a sense. But they'd rather say all of that than have people go into an utter panic about the whole thing. So I just thought I'd put that out there, shall we say. The questions out there, my thoughts on the matter before the report, and I'll make something, obviously, when the report comes out on the 26th, I hope. I'll be able to make something in more detail, so I look forward to anyone's comments or thoughts on the matter, and thanks for viewing.